remember everything from the time I was 6 years old. My son says, I don't know how she does it, but she does.
LENORE Schaefer is 104 years old. Her achievement is not as extraordinary as it once would have seemed. Today, we are all living longer, better lives. And as scientists discover the wonders of the aging process, the boundaries of human lifespan seem almost limitless.
It is possible to substantially increase the human lifespan, and it will, in fact, occur. That's as inevitable as, motor cars and electricity were by the latter part of the 19th century.
Like all living things on Earth, humans are mortal. We are born, we live, and then we die. Yet the true curse of mankind is not death itself, but aging. One by one, the diseases that cut short our lives are being conquered. Our life expectation at birth now exceeds that of our ancestors of even 50 years ago. But will medical advances alone continue to significantly increase human lifespan? Professor Leonard HAYFLICK warns that even if we eradicate all known diseases, death will still claim us.
The resolution of all causes of death currently written on the death certificates in developed countries will add 15 years onto human life expectation maximum.
So if we do want to significantly increase the human lifespan, it's essential that we understand the mysteries of aging. Scientists are now beginning to unravel the aging process, and some, like Professor Michael Rose, have even managed to slow it down.
Aging is a powerful, brutal thing. It's like a hurricane. And in humans, it starts at 15 and ends at 95. And you go through 80 years of exponentially accelerating deterioration, during which time you will lose almost all of the abilities that you had at 15.
We fight the ravages of time in any way we can, pursuing with enthusiasm the latest anti-aging promise. Ironically, few of our ancestors lived long enough to share our worries or vanities.
We have been on this planet for several million years. 99.99% of that time, our life expectation at birth has been no more than 20 or 30 years. So that we have survived most of the time that we've been on this planet without an aging process.
Humans are the most evolved species on the planet. We're survivors. But the price of evolutionary success is the aging process we all now endure. This is as good as it gets. After reaching our physical peak between the ages of 15 and 19, it's downhill all the way. But science holds out the hope that this won't always be so. The study of aging has become a deadly serious business. In 1958, Nathan Schock, a scientist with the National Institutes of Health, established the Baltimore Longitudinal Study, its purpose to scientifically examine human aging.
Shrug your shoulders up and hold it.
For more than 40 years, the study has painstakingly charted the aging process of its participants, from the moment they enter the program to the day they die.
No, First thing I'd like to do is you take a look straight ahead for me.
Okay.
I'm going to take a look in your left eye.
Dr. Jerome Flegg.
Basically, they come in for 2 to 2.5 days of poking and prodding and medical tests, psychological tests, physiological testing. And it runs the gamut from a routine history and physical examination to detailed psychological testing.
Since the study began, 2,900 people have come under scrutiny.
If you can just tell me.
Currently, there are 1,500 participants between the ages of 21 and 97, all of whom are contributing valuable information relating to how we all age.
Place your mouthpiece all the way in, covering in front of your teeth.
The maximal heart rate declines approximately 1 beat for every year of age. And in fact, that's how we test to see if somebody's lying about their age when they exercise on the treadmill. 220 minus your age turns out to be you're pretty close to your maximum heart rate. So that's how we double check on people whether they're telling the truth.
Ready, pull, 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 pull. Good.
Over the years, the study has recorded the grim reality that we can all expect to experience as we age. Our height reduces. Muscle is lost and replaced with fat, which in men gathers around the waist and in women settles on the hips, while ears and noses grow longer. Our palms widen. Hair growth decreases on our scalps, yet increases in our ears, nostrils, and on our eyebrows. The changes occurring inside our bodies are more worrying. Wounds are slower to heal. The immune system becomes weakened. We become susceptible to the diseases associated with aging: heart disease, cancer, and strokes, the 3 biggest killers in the Western world.
I think a lot of people thought that personality underwent fairly radical changes in most individuals across the age span, and our psychologists have been telling us very consistently that personality is quite stable across age. So if you're a cranky old individual, you were probably cranky when you were young.
Reactions to sights and sounds become slower, and learning new tasks is increasingly difficult. Visual acuity declines, and some hearing loss is experienced.
Okay, now I'm going to check your reflexes of the upper extremities.
We become less sensitive to pain and to touch. Our skin temperature drops, and we feel the cold more. The aim of the study is to examine those who are free from disease, so that normal aging can be isolated. But over time, disease processes inevitably appear, the chilling byproducts of aging.
I become acutely aware of how common Alzheimer's disease really is, even in this population, which tends to be an upper middle class and a very intellectually active group of individuals. We're still seeing a very sizable component of individuals, particularly those in their 80s, who have definitely some deterioration of their mental function and would meet the definition of Alzheimer's disease.
The study strongly suggests that not only do different people age at different rates, but so too do different body systems within each person.
People may have young hearts, for instance, perhaps, and older lungs, or vice versa. Aging is a very complex process, and the more you know, the less you know.
While science works to understand the internal complexities of aging, the majority of us are only concerned with the external effects. Our society venerates the young. Youth and attractiveness equals success. We're all under pressure to look good. But this isn't just a modern-day phenomenon. Throughout history, humans have worshipped youth and good looks. Even Cleopatra, renowned for her exquisite beauty, took to bathing in ass's milk to preserve her youthful glow. In the 21st century, our anti-aging tactics may be a little more sophisticated, but we pursue them with equal enthusiasm. This is Los Angeles, Mecca of the body beautiful.
I'm going to do a facial massage and shoulder, neck, and décolleté. So can you take off your top? Sure. Yes.
Okay, doctor.
Candolyn, SABIDO, Salon, and Day Spa is just part of a multi-billion-dollar industry that feeds on our desire to defy nature.
People are starting to take care of themselves for a change, especially men. A lot of first-time attorneys, they have to burn the midnight oil, and a lot of times they'll come in here and we do a refresher facial where they cleanse the skin and we do a great, neck and shoulder massage, and then leave them in the room for the music and the water and leave them in for 15 or 20 minutes so that they can take a nap.
In the anti-aging war, no expense is spared. During the year 2000, sales of anti-aging products in the USA alone reached a record $4.4 billion.
It's getting really cutthroat, and you need to look a certain part to keep an image, and if you're gonna look tired and baggy and you got sun damage, or you got broken veins going on and your skin looks very, patchy, shallowy, it doesn't make you look like, hey, I can do this.
Oh, it's awesome. I feel fresh as a daisy.
As people struggle to turn back time, buttocks, breasts, thighs, and faces are being lifted all across town. In the year 2000, there were over 5.7 million cosmetic procedures performed in the USA. The largest growth area is in non-surgical procedures. Pasadena-based doctors Miller and Seltzer are experts in laser treatments.
What we're doing in our medical center is we're rejuvenating the skin, but without any recovery time. The advances recently in laser and emitted light sources is that we can actually improve your skin, make it look younger and healthier without you missing any work.
Penny GUDEL is having a non-knife facelift. It's her 4th treatment.
I'm 59, and what started me coming here was purely vanity. I went for a job interview once, and a woman that was interviewing me was very mean. She said, you really should have some work done on your face because it's harder to get a job when you're older. It was very cruel, and I left in tears, but I started thinking about doing some things for myself.
The patient will probably feel a little stinging, but you won't see her muscles jerking or anything like that.
Today I'm having microcurrent, and I've had 3 treatments already, and I believe what it does is it stimulates the collagen underneath the skin.
This is a true laser called a YAG laser. On this one, on the patient, we're going to do some of the deeper wrinkles under the eyes. What my RN is going to do is pull down the eye, and then she's going to shoot at an angle on the orbital rim so we don't risk shooting into the eye at all. And you do 2 to 3 passes until the patient gets a little red and a little bit swollen in the area.
The laser shoots photons of light through the skin. As liver spots, broken blood vessels, and wrinkles absorb these photons, they heat up and eventually vanish. After a course of treatment, the benefits should last at least 2 to 3 years. And there are other ways to minimize the effects of aging. Bizarrely enough, one of the most popular methods is to inject the body with minute amounts of the poison that causes botulism.
Now the most common procedure that people are having cosmetically is Botox. And what Botox is a toxin. It sounds scary, but it's safe. There's been no major complications at all. What you do is you inject units of Botox into different muscles on your face, so it relaxes those muscles. It actually puts them to sleep. So what I thought I would do is I'm going to mark you, and then we're going to do your eyes, and also we can get some of the wrinkling under your eyes too, which is a newer technique. Is that okay? All right, so just relax, close your eyes. Should we just make a little bleb underneath the skin?
Olga DeMarzo is 41. She's decided it's time to take action.
I have crow's feet, and I'm a really bad squinter, especially when I'm out in the sun, even wearing sunglasses. And I noticed I was developing some really deep lines around the eyes, so I wanted to improve that.
You inject them every 3 months the first year and then less the second year. So you're really kind of causing an atrophy of the muscles so that they can't move as well in the long run. There's nothing to worry about. You just don't want to get too close so it goes into the eye itself. But she's going to be squinting and smiling for the next 4 hours. And then I've had some people where the Botox kicked in about by the next day. But in general, I tell people you got to give it at least 2 weeks to really start working.
Didn't hurt, a little mild stinging, but that's about it. I felt comfortable, at ease.
And like I said before, this is the most common cosmetic procedure now because it's so simple. You come in every 3 to 5 months and you have your little dose of Botox.
In Greek mythology, the goddess Eos asked Zeus to bestow immortality on her lover, Tithonus. But she made a crucial mistake, forgetting to ask for eternal youth. Tithonus turned gray and decrepit. He begged for the mercy of death's release. Today, youthful good looks are in the hands, not of the gods, but of plastic surgeons like Los Angeles' Dr. Ellenbogen.
Women will come to me and say, gee, I have some wrinkles over here. And really, the wrinkles are just a little chip in the, little chink in the armor. I mean, her brow is down and she's looking grumpy, her mouth is turning down, she has jowls, she has things of that. The real thing of aging is not wrinkles or brows down or anything else. It's an expression that someone gives. An older woman has an angrier expression, an unpleasant expression. And my whole idea with this thing that I've been doing for years is what I call expressional surgery. Maybe lifting the brows, making someone look a little bit brighter, changing the slant of the brows, turning up the corner of the mouth, making someone look younger. Let me just show you on the pictures what we're going to do. I think of all the places you could be in the world right now, this is the right place for you.
Not bed?
Well,
having sex? I mean...
That's a real good second choice.
Lisa DUBOW has saved long and hard for the surgery she's about to undergo.
After I was diagnosed with cancer, and I went through surgery and 7 months of chemotherapy, and I turned green, gray, and it also does a number on your skin. When I started getting better, I just looked in the mirror and I said, this is not all age. I mean, it just did a real number. And I said, I want to do something for myself. So I saved, and rather than doing, I'll say, small womanly things all the time, getting your nails done and getting your eyebrows plucked, I just took whatever I would put away for that, and I just saved it and said, I don't want to look all tired all the time. And that's what this does. It makes it so that you don't look tired all the time.
Okay, what I'm doing is I'm just outlining the bags so I'll know where they are.
The average cost of cosmetic surgery is $5,000, but this does not deter over 1 million Americans every year from choosing to go under the knife.
Most of the surgery is technically very, very easy, but it requires a tremendous attention to detail, and it also requires an artistic eye. It also requires someone to be a good mechanic. I would say 80% of the plastic surgical operations, someone who's a good car mechanic would do a better job than someone who is a fine artist. What I do is I make an incision directly under her eyelashes that won't be visible after surgery. Lower lid scissor, please. How angry these patients get if you cut even one of their eyelashes. Traction stitch, please. I'm separating that from the muscle down to where the fat is. Here's the fat which causes the bag. It's this yellow, icky stuff. Before I remove the fat, I put a clamp on it. This is the fat. This is actually her bag, which causes the bag. What I do now, after I've taken out the major fat over here, I then burn anything I think might be excess, making it nice and smooth. Put the eyelid back to where it was. The greatest bragging rights somebody can get is, I'm so good I do other plastic surgeons. So you have to be very careful who you will allow to get these bragging rights. This is 4.5 carats of industrial diamonds. And this is on a wheel which travels at about 3,000 to 5,000 RPM. And what this does, just as you would sand off some fine furniture, you can sand off the wrinkles in the lip. And when it not only does it get rid of the wrinkles, but where she has no lip line here and she puts on her lipstick, I can actually create a sharp lip line over here. Okay, I sand down to a certain layer. If I go deeper than that, the skin won't grow back. If I go less than that, the wrinkles are still there. It looks deceptively simple.
From start to finish, Lisa's surgery has taken less than an hour.
If she were to look at herself in the pictures afterwards, and if she would go up to her best girlfriend, you know, what's different about me? It's a little hard to see, but these little wrinkles in her mouth over here, tiny little things you can hardly see, to her are like the Grand Canyon. These bags under her eyes are like she's a major prize fighter who's been beaten up. Plastic surgery is not an art form. It's a way to make certain people happy. Nothing will really stop the clock, unfortunately.
When I came home, I felt fine. I wouldn't look in the mirror for a couple days just because I didn't want to upset myself. I wanted to look as if I was aging normally rather than aging as if I've gone through a serious disease. I just want to look as if I was a 44-year-old woman rather than somebody to me who was somebody in their 50s. And to me, that's what I look like. So on the inside, yeah, I'll feel a lot better.
Lisa is happy with her looks and feels the decision she made was the right one. More and more of us feel under pressure to achieve physical perfection so that we can fulfill the image that modern society idolizes. Like Dorian Gray in Oscar Wilde's famous story, we too can mask the external effects of aging, but while no picture in the attic reveals the truth of our aging process, our internal body picture always will. Amy HENDEL is about to take a three-dimensional computerized journey through her own body.
I'm here because I feel like I'm living a good lifestyle, but I'd really like to know whether or not that is truthful. So I feel that if we go inside my body and really take a close look, I will know if all the vitamin supplementation, if all the running, if all the saying no to red meat is truly playing a part in keeping me young and keeping me staying youthful.
I'll have you keep your arms up like that. At the end of the second picture, I'll tell you to rest your arms down on your stomach. Okay. All right? Ready. Okay, we'll get started here then.
This state-of-the-art body scanner will reveal signs of disease and degeneration before any symptoms appear. As a health expert and lifestyle coach, 44-year-old Amy should have far less to worry about than most.
Clearly, everybody's concerned about how they look. The latest anti-wrinkle creams, cosmetic and plastic surgeries on a rise. There's no doubt that we're all concerned about aging from the outside. But if you aren't concerned about the aging inside, you better realize that that is probably the most damning parameter that will cut your life short. And if we miss little signs of disease early on, if we are asymptomatic, if we have no signs of that disease, clearly we can get all the way down the road to a certain point, and then who knows, that may be the one fatality that you could have turned the clock back on if you had been able to see inside your body.
We're all aging on the inside, but the process is hidden from view. We have no clear idea of how our bodies are coping with the job of keeping us alive. Dr. Harvey Eisenberg is about to reveal Amy's results. Health and fitness are an integral part of her life, but how well is her body aging?
Here in the neck, this is your jaw, and this is the base of your tongue. This is the airway system.
The scan immediately exposes a problem.
At this level in the neck, we see two little brightish areas here and here, which are on both sides of the airway. These are your thyroid lobes. Now these are smaller than we usually see them, which raises some questions about your thyroid function. And the first thing that I would ask you are you on thyroid hormone? Are you taking it?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Even though it is in a resting state, the fact that it's brighter than the surrounding tissues still means that it's concentrating iodine to manufacture hormone. So they're still working, even though they're in a reduced state. So here we crack the spine open and we look inside. And the first thing that I look at is the strength of the structure inside the cut open vertebral body. Now, looking at yours, without even looking at your numbers, I can tell you that's very strong bone structure.
Right.
And then the next thing that we want to do is look down the barrel of this so we can take the data and manipulate it. And now we're looking down the barrel of the canals, and these are the joints that are in the back. Okay, and the spinal cord is running down this canal here. All right, so that all is looking good.
While the spinal column is healthy, things aren't looking so good in the neck area.
This is the frontal view of the neck. In the center panel here, see these bone spurs? The nerves go out these holes here, and these are normal, but look what's happening here. There's a ridge of bone developing in the back there. That's degenerative changes occurring in the disc, causing a bone ridge that's now starting to compromise the canal that the nerves go out. Okay, so you are developing a problem here.
And there's more cause for concern when the scan reveals the state of Amy's heart.
In the chest area, this is your heart. I'm looking very carefully to see if there's any plaque formation in the arch of the aorta, and there is. You see this little white spot right where my finger is? That is, in fact, some plaque formation. By plaque, I mean this disease, atherosclerosis.
Right.
This is the most common disease of Western civilization. This has more to do with aging than any other disease. This is the disease that causes heart attacks and strokes, the #1 and #2 killers of both men and women.
With the examination over, things might appear worrying for Amy, but she's still in better shape than most women of her age. So how did she feel about it?
I was quite shocked to hear about my skeletal system. I knew that I had been brilliantly caring for its density, but I had no idea that the particular kinds of exercises that I was choosing and going gung-ho with might actually be hurting me in some fashion. So that was a real revelation for me, and definitely something I would take under immediate consideration. I am walking away now thoroughly compelled to change some things that I was doing, but also to follow certain regimens, because I know women my age could certainly have worse pictures or worse scenarios than I saw in that body scan today.
Amy's body scan reveals that even someone as fit as she can't outrun the aging process. But why do we become more susceptible to disease as we grow older? What's really happening to our bodies as we age? Humans are made up of billions of cells. Until recently, the aging process within these building blocks of life was a mystery.
When I entered this field in the early 60s, there were, certainly in the United States, no more than a half a dozen people who would be willing to admit that they worked in this field, and that was risky to do because the field was so misunderstood and vilified, actually, that to admit that you were working in the field was tantamount to committing professional suicide.
In the first half of the 20th century, scientists believed that human cells cultured in the laboratory had the capacity to divide indefinitely and were therefore immortal. This meant that there must be internal constraints in the body that produce the phenomenon of aging. But in 1961, Professor HAYFLICK turned the understanding of cellular aging upside down. During an experiment totally unconnected with aging, he made an accidental discovery.
When I cultured normal human cells from a variety of sources, specifically from human embryos, I found that those cells divided only a certain number of times and then they died.
This contradicted what Professor HAYFLICK had always been taught about cells in culture.
We were very fearful that we had made a mistake, mostly because as word got out to the scientific community and to the elder statesmen in the field that we had made this observation, the feedback was that we had made a mistake, and of course we were very concerned about that.
But there was no mistake, and other scientists verified it. The cells underwent a maximum of 50 doublings and then stopped. This became known as the HAYFLICK limit.
If you put into your freezer cells at different doubling levels from 1 to 50, and then you reconstituted them or resurrected them from the freezer months or years later, you would find that the cells had an extraordinary memory, that they remembered at what doubling level they were when frozen, and when thawed, they would carry on so that the total number before and after freezing was 50. That meant that there must be a counting mechanism.
Professor HAYFLICK's discovery showed that human cells are not immortal. So is this then the reason we age? Unfortunately, the answer isn't so simple. HAYFLICK's groundbreaking work tells us how our dividing cells age, but the human body is also made up of other cells that never divide. Neurons, heart cells, muscle cells serve us throughout our lives without ever needing to be replaced, yet they still age. Human aging is a complicated jigsaw, but step by step, the picture is taking shape. Aging is something that accompanies us from the moment of our birth, part of our evolutionary destiny, but Professor Michael Rose believes it is something that we will manipulate.
It is possible to substantially increase the human lifespan, and it will, in fact, occur. That's as inevitable as, motor cars and electricity were by the latter part of the 19th century.
In his work at the University of California, Irvine, Professor Rose has devoted a significant part of his career to testing the evolutionary basis of aging.
We age because natural selection gives up on us at late ages. We're only healthy and vigorous when we're younger because natural selection makes us that way. It has to, because if we're not healthy and vigorous when we're younger, we could never deal with the stresses and strains of growing up to reproduce and then actually reproducing. So natural selection likes us to be healthy when we're young, but the truth is that as we do more and more reproduction, in a sense our biological importance is in our past and not in our future, natural selection lets us go.
Professor Rose tested this theory by enlisting the help of these little creatures, fruit flies.
Over time you get to like those cute little red eyes, but basically that's not why you choose to work with them. You work with them because they're easy. They're large enough so you can handle them by hand. They're small enough so that you can handle thousands and tens of thousands without much difficulty or cost. Practically what we do is we discard their eggs. The flies will lay their eggs on food that we supply. They eat off that food and they lay eggs right there. If you eliminate those plates of food containing the eggs from the environment, every 1, 2, or 3 days, you'll prevent the fly from reproducing until the age at which you want it to reproduce.
Only the most robust flies get to reproduce, and their offspring should carry this genetic propensity for survival. Normal fruit flies reproduce when they're 14 days old, but Professor Rose's flies routinely reproduce at 70 days and have continued to do so for over a decade.
What you're changing is the way evolution works, the representation of genes in the next generation, then the generation after that, the generation after that, generation after that, with the result that they live more than twice as long on average compared to normal flies.
If Professor Rose can grant fruit flies a longer life, how about humans?
Human females who delay their reproduction until much later in life will essentially be doing the same experiment if that is sustained from generation to generation over dozens of generations. If you think about what dozens of generations means in human terms, you're looking at centuries or a millennium before you'd have anything like what we have in fruit flies.
To get a clearer idea of why we age and why the aging process is all-powerful, we have to look back at the very beginnings of life. When organisms became multicellular, a critical division of labor happened. While some cells became the germline with responsibility for reproduction, others developed into somatic cells and busied themselves with the other functions of the body. British gerontologist Professor Tom Kirkwood believes that the aging process is a consequence of this deal, struck by our genes way back in our evolutionary past.
Because the responsibility for carrying the genes forward into the next generation had basically been placed on the germline, there was no requirement for these other kinds of cells, what we call the somatic cells, to bother about immortality. All they need to do is to serve the individual during the lifetime of that individual, and when that's done, their job is over.
The somatic cells only had to get us through the life expectancy we had in the wild, and then life was short, violent, and bloody. They didn't have to concern themselves with maintaining us into extreme old age. This is our evolutionary legacy.
In many ways, the disposable soma theory is a rather sort of depressing confirmation of the idea that we're simply here in order to reproduce, and once we've done that, then basically we just can drop dead.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Professor Kirkwood believes that understanding how our genes work could open the doors to increased longevity.
If it's true that the reason we age is because our genes struck a deal where they put greater priority on reproduction than on longevity, well, when we understand what the genes are doing, it opens up tremendous possibilities to be able to really get to grips with the aging process.
Scientists have now almost completed the sequencing of the 30,000 genes that make up the human genome. We should soon have a better understanding of what part genes really do play in the aging process. This is a quest worthy of our ancestors. In the 16th century, the Spaniard Juan Ponce de Leon traveled the globe in search of the fountain of youth. Instead, he found Florida, that future retirement haven for the elderly. But the real irony is that the whole time, he was carrying the secrets of the human lifespan with him, in his DNA, in each and every one of his cells. In the last 50 years, several stories have emerged suggesting that reaching old age has something to do with where we live.
100 candles grace the birthday cake of Madame Marianne Boniface, along with 102-year-old Jean Simas. Chambéry is a town of only 380 hardy souls, but 38 of the people have a total age of, hold your breath, 3,200 years.
Dr. ZHORES MEDVEDEV has studied the stories of those who apparently postpone death.
Places which associated with super longevity essentially are the mountains areas where the oldest people receive the highest respect, and therefore people tend to increase their age. People claim they are 100, 120, 130, even 150 years old.
The media latched onto these romantic tales that rapidly acquired mythical status. In the former Soviet state of Georgia, someone even claimed to be 143 years old.
There was legislation that everybody who reached 100 years old don't need to pay any tax for house, for your land, for your farm. So more people want to be 100 because they don't need to pay taxes.
Similar claims came to light in Ecuador's so-called Paradise Valley. Intrigued, America's Institute of Gerontology sent a team of researchers to investigate. Eventually, they found that the people who claimed to be 100 plus had simply taken on the names and birth dates of their grandparents. But not all the stories of extreme longevity are old wives' tales. In France, Madame Jeanne Calment lived for an amazing 122 years and set the record for human lifespan. In fact, an increasing number of people are now living beyond the age of 100 years. And if that seems like something of a paradox in our youth-obsessed society, Lynn Peters-Adler agrees.
It seems sort of hypocritical to me that at the same time that we are seeking longevity and as a nation have an interest in longevity, we decry what we see among those who are already very old. And it's unfortunate because I think we're missing an opportunity for a whole area of growth and experience that we could enjoy. Because among people who are very old, a lot of people are really enjoying every day of their lives. And to me, that's a very, very positive role model.
Well, this is a good one.
Yeah, wait, let's see if I
Okay.
can move it.
Okay, let's check it out.
Lynn set up the Centenarian Awareness Project to honor centenarians like Lenore Schaefer and provide us all with positive role models.
Here I am. 400 times.
Now, Lenore, since you are our senior member of our group today, you get to cut the cake, okay?
Oh, boy. Anybody get fresh with me? Don't you get fresh with me.
Like Lenore, Alma Jelly is also over 100.
If you start feeling old, you think I'm old, well, you'll get old. So the younger you feel inside, I think the better you're off.
Having surveyed 3,000 centenarians who have aged well, Lynn has found that there are certain traits that they do appear to have in common.
I call it the centenarian spirit because I didn't know what to call it. And it's a combination of 5 traits. And the first one is a positive yet realistic attitude. The second is a love of life, which includes a sense of humor. The third is a strong religious or spiritual belief. The fourth is personal courage, because it's not easy to grow old. And then the last point, and this to me is the most distinctive, is a remarkable ability to renegotiate life at every turn and to accept the losses and changes that come with age and not let it stop them.
Longer, healthier lives enable older people to pursue activities previously reserved for the young. And by being so active, they are helping to extend their lives still further. William Walls coordinates kayaking vacations for older citizens.
This program starts at Boulder Dam. We get a permit, take us down the road to the bottom of the dam. We launch up there, spend 4 nights and 5 days on the river. We have people that are 85 doing this. It all depends on your stamina if you think you can do it.
Okay, guys, second shift needs to get in here.
More and more elderly people are deciding that the rocking chair is not the place to live their later years. They come out here and push themselves a little bit and to experience places like this that are beautiful and unique and just sit and watch just sit up on the hill and let the wind blow in your face.
Kayakers like Peter Goldberg and Dudley Warner are convinced that keeping active is an integral part of aging well.
I'm 62 and I love it out in the Southwest. And I love kayaking.
I'm 66. I enjoy the outdoors in any form, backpacking, riding a bicycle. I also rollerblade.
I think you could be doing this into your 80s, you know, and the one way to get there and be able to do it in your 80s would be to keep at it. I think you feel better spiritually also when you're out doing things. You know, sitting around with nothing to do sounds like you might as well die.
We've nothing but admiration for 80-year-olds who brave the Colorado River, but how do we view the elderly we see every day? Even now, in our supposedly enlightened age, Dr. Robert Butler believes there's an all-pervasive prejudice against the old.
At present, we have many very negative attitudes towards older people. In medicine, it's shocking. We have terms like crock, gomer, which means get out of my emergency room, vegetable, all sorts of terms in a cruel lexicon of language, which is really unacceptable. And of course, more largely in our community, we have codger and geezer and other terms which are really unacceptable. Any racial or ethnic or religious group would never tolerate the terminology. So we have what I've called ageism for the last 30 years, a negative approach towards aging, based, of course, upon the fear, uneasiness that people have about growing old.
If we really want to stamp out this prejudice, some hard truths have to be faced up to.
It struck me as somewhat ironic that here's somebody trying to engage.
Professor Susan Krauss-Whitbourne's psychology students studying aging are more enlightened than most.
We're so afraid of death. We're so afraid of, like, losing control of our lives and the basic choices that we make every day. That kind of stuff I just think is really scary, and I think that plays a really big part in how we are looking at older people, because we're seeing them as like, I hope I'm not that way when I'm older.
My 94-year-old great-grandfather's brother goes out dancing every Saturday night. He drives on his own, he works one day a week at a gas station, and he goes out dancing every Saturday night. And I think a lot of it is mental.
I think it's definitely mental, that you are as old as you feel. You can be 18 and feel like you're 30, or you can be 40 and feel like you're 18.
I'm going to keep taking classes. I'm going to paint. I'm going to do a lot of things to broaden my horizons as I age. I'm going to keep trying to diversify my experience.
Trying something new.
Yeah.
I agree with Josh. There must be a real sense of wanting to continue growth and continue development that probably just increases exponentially as you get older, as you have more of that interest in your own spirituality and your own inner self.
But it's not just individual attitudes that have to change. Society as a whole needs to show a greater understanding of the later stages of life.
We do need new rituals for the middle and later years of life. We have them in terms of growth and development, with graduations from high school and college and marriage and various rites and rituals associated. We haven't created those types of arrangements yet for the middle and later years, but we're going to have to do that.
Until we do, older people are going to have to search harder than most for a reason to get up in the morning. Life for Morris Berman is worth getting up for. Today, at 92 years old, he's exhibiting his life's work as a photographer.
I photographed every president since Hoover, and Truman was my favorite. Matter of fact, he liked photographers and we liked him. FDR ran so many times, but imagine, I was 5 feet away.
Morris sees himself as the eyes of the public, privileged to have had a front row seat at so many historic occasions. But life is not just a collection of memories for Morris. 3 years ago, at the age of 89, he married his second wife, Diana.
He's a wonderful man. He's my hero. He's strong and dependable and reliable. And he's warm. I'm cold, chilly all the time, but he's nice and warm.
She never told me that before.
I was attracted to him the minute I saw him, you know. I think it was what you call love at first sight.
When you get a little older, it's not puppy love anymore, you know. But we have each other, and we share our thoughts together.
And there's sexual attraction, sure. There's sexual. It's just like anybody in love, only I think it's much deeper because we're so serious. We're mature people. We've both lived very interesting lives, and we know the value and the importance of love.
It's time we thought of aging not as a curse, but as a positive extension of life experience. Because in the 21st century, we can all expect to live longer than ever before. Science is now standing on the threshold of major new discoveries, not only conquering the diseases of old age, but in a bid to extend life, unraveling and intervening in the aging process itself. The lifting of the curse of mankind is now within our grasp.